Welcome back, everyone. I'm Philippe Kahn, and this is your Daily Driver for Sunday, May 3rd, 2009. I'm Philippe Kahn, and I'm pushing an elephant up the stairs. I'm tossing out punchlines that were never there. Over my shoulder, a piano falls, crashing to the ground. This is Sunday, folks, and I'm not normally here. Frankly, I'm off Sundays and Mondays on most days, but for a couple of reasons, I thought enough to come in. First of all, as many of you know, I'm leaving on my European delivery vacation. Excuse me, not vacation. Adventure, business trip. Call it anything but a vacation. In just 78 hours from the time I'm recording this. And furthermore, there was some big news in the BMW world over the weekend that I need to cover, I need to let you know. So I thought enough to send the very best and bring you guys this news. So what we're going to do, folks, we're going to talk first of all about three individuals and a group of people who have made a very big contribution to the BMW world. Second, we're going to talk about some details, technical details of the new engine in the X5M and X6M, which hit the internet today. And finally, we're going to clarify some of the program changes for May, which I went over yesterday, but apparently not in sufficient detail. So here we go. John Schaefer, Tim, Mark, and everyone on the bimmerfest team, thank you and congratulations. For those of you living under a rock who don't know what bimmerfest is, it's only the biggest gathering of BMW and BMW enthusiasts in the universe, and it happened yesterday in Santa Barbara for the 10th time, the 10th annual, and without a doubt, it was a smashing success. If you hop on bimmerfest.com, you can see some of the pictures. Autospies.com also has some pretty comprehensive coverage of what went down. And again, thank you, John, Tim, Mark, and everyone on the bimmerfest team who brings us not only the event, but the website. You guys have had a huge role in changing the BMW world and bringing the BMW community together. Congratulations and thanks again. All right, folks, some details now on the X5M and X6M engine, available on bimmerfile.com if you want to read the whole exploded version. I don't want to get bogged down in the minutiae here, folks, but there are some huge upgrades, some huge technical details to this engine which are groundbreaking, which are historic, not to overstate it. But for many folks, when they heard that BMW and M specifically was moving towards forced induction, was moving towards turbocharging their motors, a collective groan came up because what M had built its name on were unbelievable engines which spun to stratospheric RPMs and produced gobs and gobs of horsepower. Well, that is going to be changing in large part with the X5 and X6Ms. Both of those V8s now twin turbocharged, and for a lot of very good reasons. First and foremost, it's important to keep these engines as clean as possible from an emission standpoint, and spinning engines up until 8,000-9,000 RPMs just isn't good from an emissions standpoint. It's much better to have them fire at lower RPMs and to turbocharge them from an emission standpoint. And with regards to those turbochargers, we're now told that those twin scroll turbos are good for an astonishing 21 pounds-feet of boost. Just to give you, 21 foot-pounds of boost. I got corrected on that by someone yesterday. Foot-pounds of boost. That's our torque measure. To give you some perspective on that, folks, if you drive an N54 motor, which is in our 335, our 135, our 535, our X635, those turbos produce 8.5 pounds. So in the X5 and X6Ms, a full 2.5 times more boost to those turbos. What's more, however, traditionally, when you boosted an engine to that level, you were begging for turbo lag. Not in these motors. BMW has developed the cylinder bank comprehensive manifold, which basically smooths out the exhaust pulses of these turbos, which is a lot of the reason which you'd get turbo lag. Those irregular exhaust pulses from those turbines would cause some back pressure, would cause your turbo lag, would give you less than instant response from a turbocharged engine. This new exhaust manifold solves that problem, creates an exhaust gas pulse, a consistent exhaust gas pulse every 90 seconds, which smooths out power delivery. Furthermore, I'm told that this engine is actually in a fairly conservative amount of tune. In other words, that 555 horsepower and 500 pounds-feet of torque that it produces, not the most that you can see out of this engine. We're told that there's room for improvement. I'm not exactly sure how, but I'll bet you that the aftermarket figures it out before BMW does. How does a 700 horsepower X5 or X6M sound to you? Pretty good to me. Just stick it in a Z4, give it a hardtop and a 6-speed manual transmission. Call it the Philippe K edition, and BMW, you'll sell at least one. Best news of all, folks, this technology that's in the X5 and X6M engines apparently already trickling down. Even in the Mini Coopers, those twin scroll turbos already use some of the technology. And so it's not just an engineering exercise, these engines. It really is going to give us some real world improvements in the non-M offerings for years to come. All right, folks, what most of you have probably been waiting for, some program clarifications about the improvements to the BMW FS and BMW NA programs for May. First of all, I want to clear up one mistake that I made yesterday. One of many, I'm sure, but probably the most notable one. With regards to the trunk money on the X3, $4,000 worth, I erroneously stated that could be combined with BMW's lease or finance programs on the X3. I was wrong! And so I want to go on record today and let you know, no can do, folks. If you're going to take that $4,000, you still have to either find your own financing or pay cash for that car. You can't combine it with the lease program. You can't combine it with the financing. You can combine it with the $1,500 worth of loyalty cash, assuming you're coming out of an X3, but that $4,000 stands on its own. I also had another question if that loyalty cash on an X3 from a customer of mine says, wondering if that loyalty cash can be used to buy a Mini. You can use it on any other BMW model, at least according to the bulletin from BMW Financial Services. But the question is Mini, and I will have that answer for you tomorrow on the Daily Driver. And finally, I wanted to bring up one last item on the X3s. Yesterday, I had cautioned folks from using the lease program on the X3. Well, not long after I had made that pronouncement, and a bulletin came out from Financial Services, and they have dramatically, and I do mean dramatically, improved the residuals on the X3. 13 points on the 36-month term, if you can believe that. Now you have a 53% residual on that car at 36 months and 15,000 miles a year, which, while not spectacular, is certainly acceptable in my humble opinion. And I would say that the lease on the X3 does now deserve a second look. No, this is not as stratospheric as the leases, as the residuals were on the X3 in years past. I remember just a couple years ago, you could have a 65% 3-year residual on the 36-month term for next year. At 2 years, it was 75%. If you went 10,000 miles a year, it was 78%. And even back then, all of us kind of rolled our eyes and knew those were just ridiculously optimistic figures. Well, we don't have those happy days are not back, but we do have somewhat more realistic residuals right now, at least for the 36-month term, 53%. Not a bad look from the X3, and certainly if you combine it with some of the other incentives that are available, you can have a pretty good lease payment on that X3. All right, folks, that about does it for this edition of the Daily Driver. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for spending some of your Sunday with me. I shall see you next time.